Hey everybody, Movie Boy here. Just thought I'd do this little video about the proto putty again or so. Hopefully get a little bit better setup and give you guys an idea how I do this and some ways that I do it that are different than what the Chris used to show on his videos. I think this is a little easier to maintain and control the mess because cornstarch is very messy. Proto putty is we use, well, at least what I use is one of the things to fill in odd shapes, especially things that might be a little bit tight and you don't want to put a fiberglass or a plaster plug in there because it may get bound in there because of the negative drafts. So this is almost like a rubber. This is like an elastic, not elastic, like a school eraser, a soft school eraser. When it's hardened, and it hardens very quick. Like silicone itself usually takes overnight to harden. The proto putty takes about 15 minutes to harden. I give it a couple of days to fully cure out, but usually within 15 minutes or so, you're done for working time. Not even that, 5 minutes you're done for working time. Silicone to use, I use a GE brand or so. The important thing is it's clear silicone and it's type 1. Up on the top corner of the ones here, it'll say transparent and silicone type 1. It'll give you the English side of it. So all-purpose silicone. This one here I think is Windows Outdoors, is non-paintable. You can probably buy just about any brand, but you just got to make sure it's type 1. If it's type 2 or any of these ones with mold controls and all that stuff or colorant into them or so, this will not work. What I use is a piece of melamine board. Cornstarch, just your regular run-of-the-mill cornstarch. This is a 454 gram box. This box is enough to do, well, a box and a half of this did 12 tubes of silicone, 12 regular size, what are they, 298 milliliter tubes of silicone. So the cornstarch goes a long way. You got to make sure you've got gloves on or so, and it smells really, really strong of the acidic acid, the vinegary smell to it. So you want to make sure you're in an outside open space. I'm in a shed with an open door that's like 2 feet beside me here, so I got lots of ventilation. The tubes and stuff like that, you also need some food coloring. Mix the food coloring in first before the cornstarch. I'm not sure if myself personally, I'm not sure if the food coloring is what actually starts the reaction, if the cornstarch does, but you need all three in order to make it work. Also helps to make sure that you got it mixed evenly. So what I do is I've got these tubes already cut open. I cut this top short so I'm not wasting stuff inside of them. And take the tube and go in the middle of my board and just squeeze it all out. Hopefully this is catching on the camera. I'm going to do 3. I wouldn't recommend anybody does more than 3. I would recommend you get used to doing 1 because you got very short working times with all of this stuff. And that's why all these tubes are pre-cut and ready to goober out. What I'm doing, move the cornstarch out of the way here, is I'm doing the one side of this train bottom with it because there's no way I can do the fiberglassing on that shape or hard plugs and be able to get that to come out. That's one of the proto putty makes a lot of possibilities available with odd shapes and stuff like that. Ooh, this is a stiffer one. I don't think I punctured this one as well. Now what I've done here, instead of using a spoon or anything like that, I've got a painter's trowel or a plastering putty knife or whatever you want to call it, just like probably a 1.5 inch or a 1 inch, just a tiny little thing. I know it takes 3 of these to do this side of the train because I've already done the other side. It doesn't go very far, so be prepared for that. I'll put some cornstarch on the table here, and I'm going to put a couple of drops of food coloring. I just give it a little squirt. There's no real measurement of the food coloring. Basically what you want is enough to change it to a color. I'm going with blue. That's the one that my wife doesn't use in her cooking, so I kind of help myself to her food coloring. Shh, don't say anything. Might get in trouble. No, anyways. So basically all you're doing is a quick mix like that, get it to a consistent color. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take some cornstarch, you're going to sort of dust it around everything, and then you're going to start mixing it in. Now you want to keep mixing it to the center, because if you get little sections of it, it'll get too much cornstarch into it, and then it'll be little hard clumps that are hard to manage. And all you're trying to do is get this to the point where you get it to not stick to the table. So all I do is I scrape it off the table, and back onto itself. Now, I'm doing this video real time. I'm not going to edit anything out of it. Hopefully I don't mess anything up. Oops. And you can see how quick the working time is with this stuff. Keep the gloves. In the baking industry, they call it floured. Cookie sheets and all the rest of them. And that's what you're going to do. So once you get it to the point where you can kind of move it around with your hand like that, that's when you strap the putty knife. Get it off your hands. Don't tear your glove open, because if you get this on your hand, you're in big trouble. Make sure you got extra gloves ready to go. And then you're going to start moving it around a little bit. You're going to try and fold it in and see it's still sticking here a little bit. So I'm going to take it, get some more cornstarch in that area. Now you saw that little pile of cornstarch that I had in the corner, which was, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the bag, not even a quarter of the bag. And this is 3 tubes of silicone. So like I said, it doesn't take much. You're not trying to make this into a Play-Doh thick consistency. All you're trying to do is get it to not have little pieces like this fall over. If you get little pieces like that, just don't worry about them. If you get a lot of them and try and mix them back in, usually what I do is I make a hole, put them in the thing into the center and mix it in. But generally you'll have some that'll be wasted off like that. And what you're aiming for is something that is workable without it sticking to things. Now the more you mix it, the more stick you're going to bring into it. So you don't really need to have a lot of stick. This is some old stuff from earlier with chunkies in it, so I'm not going to use that. And once you got it to a point where it feels like, I say probably like mashed potatoes, then you're good to go. I'll move this out of the way here. Hopefully you catch this on camera. What I'm doing here, actually, I'm going to roll this into a little bit of log because of the distance I got to span this to. Bear with me here, so if I don't talk too much in that section of this, I got to figure this out. I got the train wheels, the gaps and stuff like that. So this is a little individual stuff that has to do more with what I'm doing than anything else to do with it. And as I pack it into where I want it to be, I keep lots of cornstarch. If I accidentally say flour, I don't mean flour, I mean cornstarch. The term of doing that is really flouring your pans, so I'm used to that, because just like the famous Gris used to say, there was a restaurant, a cook, or chef, or something along those lines. I think I remember him saying in one of his videos, I enjoy cooking. Well, I used to enjoy cooking. Still enjoy cooking, I just don't do it very much anymore. Now what I'm trying to do is achieve a surface that won't give me problems with my fiberglass and get caught up on edges. That's all this is. That's the whole purpose of this. Now this is not cheap stuff. That silicone, I'm not sure what happened with COVID and GE, but their prices went through the roof locally around here. I used to pay just over $3 a tube, and now it's pushing $12 a tube. So I'm not sure how it went 4 times the price, or just over 4 times the price, when inflation has not hit 400%. And apparently the supply chains are back in line, according to the news, according to CNN. So I'm not sure why, but that's basically it. So what I've done is I've tucked it in. Now don't worry about cornstarch on anything on the surfaces or anything like that. Keep in mind the cornstarch is all the new baby powders that you use to protect your latex or so are all cornstarch based now. At least in Canada they are, because of all of the health concerns for babies with the talcum powder stuff. And that's basically that done. So now when my fiberglass comes down and cross it over it, it's just a little lip. There's nothing for it to get caught up on. Here I got it, so it's going to have a little lip here, but that corner will come off. So what I've done is like two sides and a top. So it's a 3-piece mold for each train thing. Now you can do the math. That's 3 tubes of silicone for the one side times 2. That's 6 tubes at $12 a piece. It's not a cheap way to do this. Plaster and you know, fiberglass plugs and all that are by far cheaper. But in situations like this where you've got areas where if you make a plug to fit it, it's going to get locked in. You're never going to pull it back out. This is the way to go, because this will peel off and stay in one piece and you just pop it back in. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put a screw, like a machine screw, like a stove bolt or whatever you want to call it, like that. I don't know if that's going to show up or not. One like that, and I'll embed it into it and squish it around, leave the thread through it sticking out, and I'll put my fiberglass over it, and then I'll clean it up very carefully. That's a bit of a pain. Put some tape around it, makes your life easier, and that allows me to bolt this in place inside the mother mold. Don't usually have to do that. It's very rare I do that, but once in a while it comes in handy just to keep things aligned. In this case, when this is filled upside down, this will be the last thing sitting in, so it'll hold its proper spot without any problem. It's not going to be overly heavy. Now the way that is, within probably 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that'll be hard enough. Like, I probably could pull it out at that point. I wouldn't try. I'm gonna leave it for, I'm not gonna touch it, to be honest with you, for a couple of days, mainly just to get any left over of the smell of the vinegary smell, the acid, the acidic acid smell out of the silicone. And what I do in my molds when I'm storing them, I will take the plugs out, put them in a Ziploc bag, seal them up. I don't know if it's needed. I feel it keeps them from drying out, or the silicone from drying out. I think that's a good idea for long-term solution. I've got some that I've done that are a couple of years old, and they're like new still. So I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing or so, but to me it's a good practice. So I would suggest you try it. But again, play around. Start with one tube and get used to the working time with it or so. If you grab it and you put it in a bowl, and that's the one thing that a lot of people have done, you see online or so done, when you put it in a bowl, you can see what it's done to this trowel. You scrape it off afterwards or so, but it hardens up so fast, you don't want the bowl all hard in chunks, because first of all, you'll never mix it, and you get hardened little chunks in it, and when you're trying to mix it, and it becomes a mess, and you waste a lot of it because it's sticking to the bowl. By doing it this way and scraping it off, this is the same way bread makers work with they use those flat steel things to clean the grills off and stuff like that, the cooking surface, I mean. And they start with a clean surface like that, and you're wasting very little. Like this is what's in here. Most of this is cornstarch. So actually, here's something that I did about an hour ago, and it's like rubber hard here. This stuff here is, I probably got 3 tablespoons worth of waste stuff out of now 15 tubes of silicone. Anyways, that's it for now or so. I will do another video on doing the PVA and the particle paste. Some people were asking about that recently on the forum, so I'll put that on in another video. Anyways, bye for now.